Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we are going to talk about, if you come for the king, you best not miss. All right, Tales from the Valiant, right? Let's talk about an update on a game that is coming and trying to directly unseat Dungeons & Dragons. Now, this isn't like, people are like, oh, Scott, that game wasn't built to beat Dungeons & Dragons. This one was. We're like, this is specifically, so Tales from the Valiant is the renamed Project Black Flag from Topple Press, okay? And this thing is being built from the ground up to replace Dungeons & Dragons specifically because of the anger that the D&D community, OSR community, and the Indian community all experienced in the 2023 Manic Panic, in the 2023 OGL crisis, right? So when that happened, people were so furious that there were a lot of people who were like, I'm going to make a hate game, right? I hate what Wizards of the Coast did, and I hate what Hasbro did, and I'm going to make a game to beat Dungeons & Dragons, right? And so this is it, right? Tales of the Valiant is for realsies like a very legitimate attempt to unseat Dungeons & Dragons and say, we're going to give you, like, and it's literally being built for people who hate Hasbro D&D. That is the market for this game, right? And so the idea is they're going to give you and what is Dungeons & Dragons? And that's the issue, right? It is a generic American fantasy tabletop role-playing game that you could use as a platform, right? And so this thing is coming to replace Dungeons & Dragons. So how are they doing? Let's talk about it, okay? So first of all, garbage name. Tales of the Valiant is an absolutely terrible name. It's like, wait, so I can only tell stories of heroes? I can't tell stories of neutral players? And I guess that means I can't play evil, right? Right? So absolutely terrible name. It just, and the other thing is, oh, so this is a story about the old Prince Valiant from the comics, right? Like that super old crusty newspaper comic strip? No, it's not, right? Just atrocious name. What's even worse is Project Black Flag was a better name than they went to, right? Tales of Valiant is a worse name, right? Second, it's not even a full game, right? It's not even a full game system. Dungeons & Dragons. Here's your DMG. Here's your PHP. Here's your monster manual. These guys are, here's your player's guide. Here's your monster guide. What? Wait, where's the DMG? Oh, well, like, we don't really care about narrative. Like, this is all mechanical, right? Like, you know how to DM, right? Well, whatever, right? Like, they literally left out the DMG. Sucks. Like, Tales of the Valiant. And the thing I love about this is it's the shut up and put up period, right? Like, you had nothing but jokes. You had nothing but negative comments in January. Now it's your turn to put up. Oh, all your advice and all your talk about how D&D does it wrong. Oh, it just all evaporates when you need to actually do the work, right? They couldn't even serve up the 3 core rule books, right? All right, so let's talk about its Kickstarter, right? This thing is Kickstarter. So it's gotten $750,000 out of the gate. Not a bad start, okay? So how do we know if Tales of the Valiant is actually a true threat to Dungeons & Dragons and has any ability to unseat it? Oh, by the way, the entire point of this thing was to present a generic American fantasy alternative to Dungeons & Dragons that will run not on the OGL, but on the ORC. Now, which the open role playing creatives, right? Creativity, which is an alternative to the OGL, which ironically isn't even needed because Dungeons & Dragons killed the OGL, in my humble opinion, and just put everything on Creative Commons, which is a much better, safer license, in my humble opinion. Okay, so the ORC isn't even needed, right? And so this and by the way, also let's talk about writing, layout, and art, right? Absolute garbage art, very, very derivative. And you're just like, where are the Magic the Gathering artists? Oh, they're not here because they're all employed by Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, right? So it's all going to be tier 2 artists, blah, right? And like literally, it's just such pablum. Like, it's just really bad. And I downloaded their quick start guide, very derivative of Paizo's Pathfinder 2. Actually, Paizo's Pathfinder material. It looks like a Pathfinder game. It just looks like a Pathfinder game, which is exactly what it is, essentially, right? It's just another bad copy, right? So how do we, but there is one metric that I think is important, right? So how do we know if Tales of Valiant is actually successful in its Kickstarter and has the ability to beat Dungeons & Dragons? Here you go. Has to do with Kelsey Dionne's Shadow Dark. So Kelsey Dionne's Shadow Dark is the most successful, by far, the most successful. Kelsey Dionne's Shadow Dark is the most successful OSR game that's ever been created, right? It kickstarted for $1,365,000. It made Kelsey Dionne literally the king of the OSR. This woman outperformed an innumerable amount of white male designers. It was like, y'all's can go kick rocks. Watch me roar, right? Like, and she did. She defeated every single OSR designer who's ever created an OSR game. And was like, boom, 1.365 million. Shh, seal your flapping maws. There's a new king of the OSR. There's a new king of the old school rules. And everybody's like, what's special about Shadow Dark? It kicked your game in the nards, right? That's what happened. Like, every OSR bowed down. Every OSR game ever created, bow down. This has got the numbers. It's got the receipts. Kelsey Dionne is unmitigated, undisputed king of the OSR because of the metrics, because of the numbers, right? Now, Kelsey Dionne didn't even mean to be king of the OSR, right? She got that crown by kicking a Kickstarter that set the internet on fire, right? Like, you know, and Shadow Dark is the best tabletop role-playing game in the OSR by the numbers, right? Like, you know, it is the Dungeons & Dragons of the OSR, right? So if Kelsey Dionne did 1.365 million and was not even trying to beat Dungeons & Dragons, just the tabletop role-playing game community came on and said, oh, we're going to put you in direct competition with Dungeons & Dragons. You are going to be our hope and our, you know, and you're going to be our last great hope to defeat Dungeons & Dragons, right? And if they put her in position, right? Now, Kelsey Dionne, since then, she is king of the OSR, but she's leaving that crown on the table. She just wants to make a good game, which is the absolute fastest way to say, I'm not going to do what Gary did. I'm not going to make the sacrifice to make this the number 1 tabletop role-playing game in the world, right? It's just going to be another, like, you know, PDF sitting over on Drive-Thru-RPG. Who cares, right? Right? Because she has the crown, but she's leaving it on the table, and she's not telling OSR creators and designers what to do and what is the next direction for the OSR, right? So it goes back to Tales from the Valiant. So, but Shadow Dark is what will tell us if Tales of the Valiant is actually successful. So Tales from the Valiant needs to do 3 times the numbers of Shadow Dark to really be exactly what it promised to believe, a Dungeons & Dragons killer, right? That's what Tales of the Valiant was built to do, to kill Dungeons & Dragons, right? And that's not an empty threat, right? For one month, right? During Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, Pathfinder actually outsold Dungeons & Dragons for 1 month, right? And so everybody's looking for a D&D killer, right? And so that's what Tales of the Valiant was built to do. Here's how you're going to know whether it has any hope of doing it. It has to do 3 times Kelsey Dionne's 1,365,000 number. So if Tales from the Valiant does a $4 million Kickstarter, right? It definitely has the juice and the momentum to destroy Dungeons & Dragons and defeat it, right? If it doesn't, call it what it is. It's just another stupid PDF sitting on Drive-Thru-RPG. Nobody cares, right? It's not the world's greatest dungeon. It's not the world's scariest tabletop role-playing game with a $150 million hyperlinked super platform, which is exactly what Dungeons & Dragons is, right? That's the point, right? So that's where so Tales from the Valiant is rolling. It's just started up. If it can do 4 million, it is a real D&D killer. It can be a D&D killer, what it was built to be. If it does $1 less than 4 million, it's nothing, and will take its position as sad PDF sitting on Drive-Thru RPG like 10,000 other games. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.